update here on La Bataille de Schongrabern 1805. I haven't been able to play a bit, but we're now on the the 1600 turn. So 1800 turn. So that's 6 o'clock in the evening, and dusk has started, which means essentially that the artillery have a reduced range, and it's a bit hard for you to see, I think, the counters against the trees below, but essentially what we have is all of the French forces are on the map. So there's lots of forces from Legrand. All of his forces have moved onto the map, including some cavalry which have got all the way over here. He's got some infantry here. He's got some infantry here which are being held up by some Russian grenadiers in skirmish formation there. No, yeah, skirmish formation. There's Oudinot has got all his forces on. His artillery there still haven't moved. They're moving. In fact, actually, I think there's a Suchet, so they're going to join with them. Then these Oudinot is still being held up here by the remnant of the Russian sort of forces there. There's a Russian skirmish unit there being skirmished for a French unit. And the rest of the French units are here with a Russian regiment here. And is that, yeah, another regiment, in a cavalry regiment in reserve there. The cavalry regiment coming up here ready to charge when people come out, and a battalion holding forces back there. I think that's a Cossack regiment, and then up here we got a couple of regiments of Russians there, and that's all the Russian forces that we have, and that's against sort of 3 divisions of the French corps, the French forces. You can see most of the French are moving around here, so they've had to. Normally they would be moving it in regiment size there, but they have to break down into battalion size units to move through the pine forest. So we got a regiment of cavalry. No, that's in fact 3 cavalry regiments, and then about 3 or 4 regiments of infantry moving through that forest there, ready to break out here. The target being to take all the hexes of this town, and we're not even halfway through. However, this turn, the next turn is dusk, then after that is going to be night. I can't remember what happens, but I have to say that I am a bit kind of dubious about the abilities of the Russians to hold back the French from obtaining their victory objective over there. There's just, the French are just so powerful, and there's so many of them, and the Russians are just so few, and therefore their battalions and so forth are weak in comparison on the whole. Yes, so for example, well, their cavalry regiments are maybe equal, so that's actually a whole regiment, and here they've broken down into squadrons. They would be, so that would be sort of the 16 strength full versus 18 strength there. So on the other hand, they have some sort of dragoons and Cossacks. They're just smaller squadrons. But on the whole, yeah, it seems a very unmatched battle, and so I'm very sceptical about the Russians being able to hold them off. What I might do is quickly finish this game, then play again and try a lot harder on the Russian side. But before I go now, I just feel a duty bound to make an apology, because I had said that there was no command rules given. No, sorry, that's correct. There are no command rules given this game, but in communication with Dennis Spores, one of the designers, he said, "Oh, they ditched the command spans and command points. So they decided that they started using for their introductory Premier Rules games, these free ones. And I don't know if they published one with those, one that you actually bought and paid for. But they ditched them because he said there's just became too many exceptions, and so they've reverted to the it takes 10 minutes for the French to move. Now that's not to take their whole turn, that's just to do the movement portion of the turn. And then it takes 8 minutes for the Russians to move. So you get the command control in that and having to make decisions quickly. However, what it does mean is that, for example, I can't remember exactly what I did because it's been a few days, but potentially I could move someone from Legrand's division, bring them all the way around here, while the rest of his division go off up there, and they just wander here willy-nilly. So there's nothing to stop mixing and matching units from different commands and so forth like that. You don't have to stay in any command range. You just have a limited time in which to make decisions. But the major mistake that I made previously, and that I feel duty-bound to correct, is that I complained that I'd found no rules for the facing of the units. Well, there are rules for the facing, but no rules on how to change facing. If there was a cost to it, if you could do it, if it was completely free, how many hex sides or hex spines you could move. And I discovered again in communication with that designer that I had an older copy of the Premier rules, and I didn't realise that they've updated it quite quickly. So in the newer version, they both have ditched the original command rules, and they have indicated something about changing facing. However, it still leaves me with a question because it says it costs a movement point to change facing, but is that per side or hex spine, or is that however far you want? However, I feel able to continue, but I have to say I'm a bit disappointed that they lost the command rules, because apparently the original games didn't have them, and they came back after 25 years to start designing games again with the same rules system, more or less, but they brought in command at the special request of the players. So they did bring in the command, and they played with it and tinkered with it for a few games, but then they've ditched it because they find it adds too many exceptions. Now, fair enough, and that's the game they want to produce, but they have ignored the players' requests in that case, and they might have good reason to do so, because it creates too much of a headache just trying to work out all the exceptions, or it might be more that it's just not their play style, and so it's not their design style, and so they've decided to ignore player requests in that instance. And either way, it's fair enough, that's their decision, but it's just something I think worthy of note, that players like me find it a bit odd that there's no command restrictions in terms of radii, and units can move wherever they like. However, that is how they want it, and I don't suppose they play it like that, because they probably have more of an idea of what goes on in that era and play it to the spirit of that area. I don't, so I need more instructions to help me. Anyway, so I don't think I've got time to play the turn now, but I hopefully will play a bit more of this soon and pop up another update as soon as.